Hello everyone. So today we will be talking about the Cold War of 1980 and 1990. So what was the Cold War? The Cold War was a war that lasted 45 years and there were several factors for it. In reality, they have always had clashing ideologies and different structures of government that have played a major role in leading them to embark upon such a distrustful relationship. Furthermore, the Soviets distrusted the US way before World War II when they intervened in the Russian Civil War and didn't recognize the Soviet Union until 1933. As a result, during and after World War II, the Soviets were determined to dominate European countries with their own political agenda to become the hegemonic power and believed the US had the same motive. However, the US was more eager on protecting these Eastern countries from the communist influence and sustaining stability throughout these regions. Factors that put Cold War to end. The factors are Ronald Reagan, Mikhail Gorbachev, and the fall of the Berlin Wall. Ronald Reagan, originally an American actor and politician, became the 40th President of the United States, serving from 1981 to 1989. His term saw a restoration of prosperity at home with the goal of achieving peace through strength abroad. On February 6, 1911, Ronald Wilson Reagan was born to Nellie and John Reagan in Tampico, Illinois. On January 20, 1981, Reagan took the office as the President of the United States. Only 69 days later, he was shot by a would-be assassin, but quickly recovered and returned to duty. His grace and wit during the dangerous incident caused his popularity to soar. Dealing skillfully with Congress, Reagan obtained legislation to stimulate economic growth, curb inflation, increase employment, and strengthen national defense. He embarked upon a course of cutting taxes and government expenditures, refusing to deviate from it when its strengthening of defense forces led to a large deficit. In 1986, Reagan obtained an overhaul of the income tax code, which eliminated many deductions and exempted millions of people with low incomes. At the end of his administration, the nation was enjoying its longest record period of peacetime prosperity without recession or depression. In foreign policy, Reagan sought to achieve peace through strength. During his 2 terms, he increased defense spending 35%, but sought to improve relations with the Soviet Union. In dramatic meetings with Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, he negotiated a treaty that would eliminate intermediate-range nuclear missiles, that was the INF. Reagan declared war against international terrorism, sending American bombers against Libya after evidence came out that Libya was involved in an attack on American soldiers in a West Berlin nightclub. INF, the 1987 Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces (INF) treaty required the United States and the Soviet Union to eliminate and permanently forswear all of their nuclear and conventional ground-launched ballistic and cruise missiles with ranges of 500 to 5,500 kilometers. The treaty marked the first time the superpowers had agreed to reduce their nuclear arsenals, eliminate an entire category of nuclear weapons, and utilize extensive on-site inspection for verification. As a result of the INF Treaty, the United States and the Soviet Union destroyed a total of 2,692 short, medium, and intermediate range missiles by the treaty implementation deadline of June 1, 1991. Neither Washington nor Moscow now deploys such system. The most important person that put the Cold War to end is Mikhail Gorbachev. Mikhail Gorbachev was the first president of the Soviet Union, serving from 1990 to 1991. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for Peace for his leadership role in ending the Cold War and promoting peaceful international relations. Included among Gorbachev's political information was a new, more democratic election system. In 1989, he organized elections that required Communist Party members to run against non-party members. He revoked the Communist Party's special status as set forth in the USSR Constitution. State power was handed over to the Congress of People's Duties of the USSR, the Soviet Union's first parliament based on democratic elections. On March 15, 1990, the Congress of People's Duties elected Gorbachev the first president of the Soviet Union. During his presidency, Gorbachev promoted more peaceful international relations. He ordered Soviet troops to withdraw from Afghanistan, reduce the tensions of the Cold War. Through his peaceful negotiations with President Reagan, Gorbachev was also instrumental in ending the Cold War. He is likewise credited for his crucial role in the fall of the Berlin Wall and subsequent reunification of Germany. For his excellent leadership and his contribution to the overall betterment of the World Department, Gorbachev was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize on October 15, 1990. In addition to the fielding conflicts with other nations, Gorbachev tackled pressing issues within the Soviet Union. Different ethnic groups within the USSR had begun to wage war against one another, while other groups such as Ukrainians, Lithuanians demanded that they become independent nations. As Gorbachev was grappling these factors along with still flaying Soviet economy, a new revival leader came into the scene. Boris Yeltsin, a former Communist Party member, emphasized radical changes to economy. In the summer of 1991, Yeltsin was voted president of the Russian Republic. Gorbachev now faced the problem of how to balance the shared power between him and the opposing leader. Perestroika, meaning restructuring in English, program instituted in the Soviet Union by Mikhail Gorbachev in the mid-1980s to restructure Soviet economic and political policy, seeking to bring the Soviet Union up to economic par with capitalist countries such as Germany, Japan, and the United States. Gorbachev decentralized economic controls and encouraged enterprises to become self-financing. The economic bureaucracy, fearing the loss of its power and privileges, obstructed much of this program. Gorbachev also proposed reducing the direct involvement of the Communist Party leadership in the country's governance and increasing the local government's authority. In 1988, a new parliament, the Soviet Congress of People's Duties, was created. Similar Congress were established in each Soviet republic as well. For the first time, election to these bodies presented voters with a choice of candidates, including non-communist, though the Communist Party continued to dominate the system. Glasnost, meaning openness, Soviet policy of open discussion of political and social issues. It was instituted by Mikhail Gorbachev in the late 1980s and began democratization of the Soviet Union. Ultimately, fundamental changes to the political structure of the Soviet Union occurred. The power of the Communist Party was reduced and multi-candidate election took place. Glasnost also permitted criticism of government officials and allowed the media freer dissemination of news and information. Last but not the least was the fall of the Berlin Wall. On November 9, 1989, as the Cold War began to thaw across Eastern Europe, the spokesman for the East Berlin Communist Party announced a change in his city's relation with the West. Starting at midnight that day, he said citizens of the GDR were free to cross the country's border. East and West Berlins flocked to the wall, drinking beer and champagne and chanting, "Tor auf," means open the gate. At midnight, they flooded through the checkpoints. More than 2 million people from East Berlin visited West Berlin that weekend to participate in a celebration that was, one journalist wrote, the greatest street party in the history of the world. People used hammers and picks to knock away chunks of the wall. They became known as the Mordspecht or wall woodpeckers, while cranes and bulldozers pulled down section after section. Soon the wall was gone and Berlin was united for the first time since 1945. Only today, one Berliner spray painted on the wall, "Is the war really over?" The reunification of East and West Germany was made official on October 3, 1990, almost 1 year after the fall of the Berlin Wall.